Have you ever wondered what would happen if you held one simple position just a few minutes a day after the age of 50? No gym, no equipment, no running, no jumping, standing still. It sounds almost too easy, but what if this one posture could quietly rebuild your strength, protect your joints, sharpen your balance, and even turn back certain signs of aging? Because that's exactly why the horse stance has fascinated martial artists, physical therapists, and longevity researchers for decades. At first glance, the horse stance looks simple. You stand with your feet wide apart, knees bent, back straight, as if you're sitting on an invisible chair. But the moment you try to hold it, your legs begin to shake, your core fires up, and you realize very quickly, this is not just standing, it's controlled tension. It's structural alignment. It's strength built from the inside out. For people over 50, that combination is incredibly powerful. You see, once we cross 50, the body begins to change in very predictable ways. Muscle mass declines, a process called sarcopenia. Bone density gradually reduces. Balance becomes less stable. Even the nervous system slows its communication between brain and muscles. This is why falls become more common, why knees feel weaker, why getting up from a chair takes more effort than it used to. But here's where the horse stance becomes interesting. Unlike high-impact workouts that can stress aging joints, the horse stance builds strength isometrically, meaning your muscles activate without joint movement. That makes it far gentler on the knees and hips, while still stimulating muscle fibers deeply. When you lower into the stance, your quadriceps, the large muscles at the front of your thighs, switch on immediately. These muscles are critical for walking, climbing stairs, and standing up safely. Weak quads are one of the biggest predictors of mobility loss later in life. But the horse stance doesn't stop there. Your glutes engage to stabilize your hips, hamstrings support the back of your legs, your calves activate to keep you grounded. Even your feet begin working harder, strengthening the small stabilizer muscles that help prevent falls. And then something subtle but important happens. Your core tightens, not in the way you might feel during crunches, but in a deeper, supportive way. The muscles around your abdomen and lower back engage to keep your spine upright. Over time, this can improve posture, reduce lower back pain, and make everyday movements feel more supported. Many people over 50 realize that posture decline isn't just cosmetic. It affects breathing capacity, digestion, and even confidence levels. Holding the horse stance trains the body to remember what upright alignment feels like. And the longer you hold it, the more your endurance builds. Now, let's talk about the shaking, because almost everyone experiences it. When your legs tremble in the stance, it's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of activation. Your nervous system is recruiting dormant muscle fibers, trying to maintain stability. This neuromuscular communication is something that declines with age if not trained. So in a way, that shaking is your body waking up. With consistent daily practice, the shaking reduces. What once felt impossible for 20 seconds becomes manageable for a minute, then 2, then 5. And this is where metabolic benefits begin to appear. Holding large muscle groups under tension increases blood flow and glucose uptake. For adults over 50, especially those concerned about blood sugar regulation, isometric holds, like the horse stance, can help muscles utilize circulating glucose more effectively. It's not a replacement for walking or aerobic exercise, but it complements them in a unique way by building muscular endurance and insulin sensitivity at the same time. Then there's joint protection. Contrary to what many assume, properly performed horse stance can actually support knee health. That's because the surrounding muscles, quads, hamstrings, and inner thighs act like natural braces for the joint. Stronger muscles reduce mechanical stress on cartilage. Of course, depth matters. You don't need to drop extremely low. In fact, for beginners over 50, a higher stance is safer and still effective. What matters most is alignment. Knees tracking over toes, spine tall, weight evenly distributed. Over time, as strength improves, depth can gradually increase, but it should never feel painful. Another surprising benefit people report after several weeks is improved balance. Standing in the horse stance forces your body to constantly make micro adjustments. Tiny stabilizer muscles in the ankles and hips switch on to keep you steady. This trains proprioception, your body's awareness of its position in space. And better proprioception means fewer stumbles, quicker reaction time, and more confidence moving through daily life. But the benefits aren't just physical. There's a mental shift that happens when you practice the horse stance daily, because holding still is hard. There's no distraction. There's no movement to escape the discomfort. You're forced to breathe, focus, and stay present while your muscles fatigue. In many traditional training systems, the horse stance wasn't just for strength, it was for discipline and mental resilience. And modern psychology supports this idea. Isometric endurance training has been linked to improved pain tolerance, stress regulation, and mental stamina. When you voluntarily hold a challenging position, your brain learns that discomfort is manageable, temporary, survivable. For adults navigating the stresses that often come after 50 career transitions, health concerns, family responsibilities, this kind of mental conditioning can be unexpectedly empowering. Then there's circulation. When you hold the stance, blood pools temporarily in the lower body due to muscular compression. When you stand up and relax, fresh oxygenated blood rushes back through the legs and pelvis. This pump effect can support vascular health, reduce feelings of leg heaviness, and even help people who sit for long hours. Some practitioners also notice warmth building in the hips and lower abdomen, an indication of increased blood flow to areas that often become stiff with age. And flexibility improves too, though not in the way stretching does. The inner thighs, or adductors, lengthen under tension. Over time, this can improve hip mobility, making walking strides smoother and reducing groin tightness. By now, it might sound like the horse stance is a miracle exercise. It's not magic, but it is efficient. Because instead of isolating one muscle at a time, it trains the body as an integrated system. Strength, balance, posture, endurance, and focus, all in one position. And perhaps the most encouraging part for people over 50, you can start exactly where you are. Even 20 to 30 seconds a day creates a stimulus. The body adapts at any age when given consistent signals. The key isn't intensity, it's consistency. And when practiced daily, small changes begin stacking up quietly behind the scenes. Stronger legs, steadier balance, more upright posture, greater body awareness. Changes that don't just show up in workouts, but in how you move through life itself. And this is only the beginning of what starts happening when the horse stance becomes a daily habit. As the days turn into weeks, something interesting begins to happen, and most people don't notice it right away. At first, the focus is always on the legs, the burning in the thighs, the shaking, the mental battle of holding just a few seconds longer. But around the third or fourth week of daily practice, many people over 50 start reporting a different kind of change. They feel more stable when they walk, not faster, just steadier. It shows up in small moments, stepping off a curb, turning quickly in the kitchen, walking on uneven ground. Situations that used to feel slightly risky begin to feel more controlled. This happens because the horse stance strengthens what physiologists call the kinetic chain of the lower body, the coordinated system of muscles that manage force from the ground up. Every time you hold the stance, your feet grip the floor, your ankles stabilize, your knees align, and your hips anchor your torso. You're not just building muscle, you're building communication between joints. And that communication is what prevents falls. Falls are one of the leading causes of injury after 50, but they rarely happen just because of weak bones. They happen because the body fails to react quickly enough to instability. Horse stance training improves reaction readiness. Your stabilizer muscles stay more awake, even outside of exercise. Then there is the effect on the hips, one of the most important but overlooked areas in aging bodies. Tight, weak hips are strongly linked to lower back pain. When hip mobility decreases, the lumbar spine compensates, leading to strain and stiffness. Holding the horse stance gently opens the hips while strengthening the surrounding musculature. Over time, this reduces compensatory stress on the lower back. Some people notice they stand longer without discomfort. Others find getting out of bed or rising from low chairs becomes easier. And there's another structural change that can occur: improved joint stacking. When you hold the stance with proper form, knees over ankles, pelvis neutral, spine tall, you're training skeletal alignment under load. This is critical after 50 because postural collapse tends to accelerate with age. Forward head position, rounded shoulders, hip tilt. The horse stance counteracts these patterns by reinforcing vertical integrity. It teaches the body to distribute weight efficiently instead of dumping pressure into the knees or lower back. Now let's talk about hormones and metabolism because yes, even a static posture can influence them. When large muscle groups are held under tension, the body releases small amounts of growth supportive hormones, including human growth hormone and testosterone, even in older adults. These hormones don't spike like they would during heavy weightlifting. But the steady, repeated stimulus of daily stance work contributes to muscle maintenance and tissue repair. For adults over 50, maintaining muscle is far more important than building new mass. Why? Because muscle acts like a metabolic engine, regulates blood sugar, supports immune function, and protects joints by absorbing force. Daily horse stance practice helps preserve that engine, especially for people who plan to engage in resistance training. Another unexpected benefit shows up in bone health. When you hold your body weight in a bent knee stance, your bones experience compressive loading, a key signal for maintaining bone density. This is particularly relevant for postmenopausal women and older men at risk of osteoporosis. While it's not a replacement for full weight-bearing exercise, it contributes to skeletal stimulation in a safe, low-impact way. And because there's minimal joint movement, the injury risk remains low when done correctly. But one of the most fascinating changes happens in breathing. At first, people hold their breath in the stance without realizing it. But with practice, they learn to breathe slowly and deeply while under muscular tension. This trains what is called braced breathing, maintaining diaphragmatic respiration while the core is engaged. Over time, this improves lung efficiency and oxygen utilization. Some practitioners even report better stamina during walking or climbing stairs, not because their legs alone got stronger, but because their breathing became more efficient under effort. Then comes the psychological shift. Daily stillness builds patience. When you hold the horse stance, time feels slower. Second stretch. The mind looks for escape routes. But staying in the posture teaches emotional regulation, the ability to remain calm under physical stress. For people navigating aging, this mental steadiness can translate into better coping mechanisms for pain, uncertainty, or physical limitations. It becomes less about fighting aging and more about building resilience within it. Sleep can improve too, not directly because of the stance itself, but because of the neuromuscular fatigue it creates. Isometric holds activate deep muscle fibers that often go unused. This type of fatigue signals the nervous system to recover during sleep, sometimes leading to deeper rest cycles. Many people who practice in the evening report falling asleep faster. And then there's confidence, the quiet, internal kind. When you prove to yourself daily that you can hold discomfort, that you can stay disciplined, your body is still capable of growing stronger after 50, it changes your self-perception. You stop seeing aging as decline and start seeing it as adaptation. That mindset shift alone can influence long-term health behaviors from nutrition to movement to stress management. But perhaps the most surprising result isn't physical or hormonal or neurological. It's how little time it actually takes to see change. Even holding the stance for 2 to 5 minutes total per day, broken into shorter intervals, can begin producing measurable improvements in leg endurance and balance within 4 to 8 weeks. And because it requires no equipment, no travel, no complex learning curve, adherence tends to be high. People stick with it, which in the world of health after 50 is everything. Because the best exercise is never the most intense one. It's the one you'll still be doing 6 months from now. And when the horse stance becomes part of a daily routine, like brushing your teeth, its effects compound quietly in the background. Stronger mornings, more stable steps, less hesitation in movement, more trust in your body. And yet, there is still another layer of change that most people don't expect when they commit to this practice long term. It's changes that go beyond muscles and joints, begin affecting how the body ages at a deeper level. And this is where the horse stance starts moving into territory that surprises even researchers who study aging and movement. Because long-term daily practice doesn't just strengthen muscles, it begins influencing how the nervous system and connective tissues age together. Let's start with connective tissue, the fascia. Fascia is the web-like network that wraps around every muscle, bone, and organ in your body. When we're younger, fascia is elastic and well-hydrated. But after 50, it tends to stiffen, dehydrate, and lose adaptability, contributing to that tight, restricted feeling many people notice with age. When you hold the horse stance, you're placing sustained tension through multiple fascial lines at once: inner thighs, hips, lower back, even up through the torso. This kind of prolonged low-grade loading stimulates fibroblasts, the cells responsible for maintaining fascial elasticity. Over time, this can improve tissue glide, reduce stiffness, and enhance movement efficiency, even without traditional stretching. In simpler terms, your body starts feeling less rigid. Movements that once felt creaky or restricted begin to feel smoother, not because you're reinforcing flexibility, because your connective tissues are adapting. Then there's joint nourishment. Joints don't have a direct blood supply. Instead, they rely on movement and pressure changes to circulate synovial fluid, the lubricating substance that keeps cartilage healthy. Even though the horse stance is static, the muscular contractions around the knees and hips create rhythmic compression that helps circulate this fluid. Think of it like gently feeding the joints. For adults over 50, this can contribute to reduced stiffness, especially after long periods of sitting. Now let's talk about neurological aging, something most exercise discussions overlook. As we age, the speed of neural signaling declines. This affects coordination, reaction time, and motor control. But static strength training like the horse stance demands constant micro-corrections from the brain. Every second you hold the posture, your nervous system is processing balance data from your feet, knees, hips, and spine, then adjusting muscle activation in real time. It's like running balance software continuously. Over months and years, this kind of stimulation helps preserve neuromuscular efficiency, one of the biggest predictors of functional independence later in life. In other words, it helps you stay capable, not just strong. There's also evidence that isometric training can reduce resting blood pressure when practiced consistently. When you hold muscular tension and breathe steadily, your vascular system adapts by improving vessel elasticity and circulation efficiency. For adults managing mild hypertension, this can be a supportive addition to walking and aerobic activity, though always alongside medical guidance. And then comes energy regulation. It may sound counterintuitive, but spending a few minutes in a physically demanding still posture can actually increase daily energy levels. Why? Because it enhances mitochondrial activity, the energy-producing structures inside your cells. Large muscle engagement signals the body to maintain mitochondrial density, which plays a role in fatigue resistance and metabolic health. Many practitioners say they feel more awake in their legs throughout the day, less heaviness, less sluggishness. Now let's address something psychological but deeply biological. Fear of falling. After 50, especially following minor stumbles or injuries, many people develop subconscious movement fear. They walk more cautiously, avoid uneven terrain, and limit physical exploration. Ironically, this fear accelerates physical decline. Daily horse stance practice rebuilds trust between mind and body. You feel your legs working, stabilizing, enduring. And that sensory reassurance reduces fear-based movement restriction. You begin moving more naturally again, which further preserves mobility. Then there's longevity science, a growing field studying how movement influences lifespan and health span. Researchers consistently find that leg strength and balance are among the strongest predictors of longevity, even more than upper body strength. Why? Because they determine independence, your ability to climb stairs, recover from slips, stand from seated positions. These dictate whether you can live autonomously. The horse stance directly trains these capacities in one integrated posture. It's not flashy, it's not trendy, but it targets foundational survival mechanics that the body depends on as it ages. And perhaps one of the most profound long-term effects is internal awareness. When you hold the stance daily, you become more attuned to subtle body signals, knee tracking, foot pressure, hip tension, spinal alignment. This awareness often spills into other activities. You walk more upright, sit more consciously, lift objects more safely, creates a feedback loop of healthier movement patterns. And over years, that reduces wear and tear on the body. So what starts as just standing still becomes a daily recalibration of strength, posture, balance, breathing, and mental endurance. It's quiet work, There's no sweat-drenched intensity. There's no loud environment, no performance pressure. Just you, your breath, and gravity. And yet practiced consistently after 50, the cumulative effect can be transformative. Not in the sense of turning back the clock, but in slowing how fast the clock shows up in your body. You may not look dramatically different overnight, but you feel different moving through the world. Stronger when you stand, steadier when you walk, calmer under strain, more confident in your physical independence. And for many people, that combination is far more valuable than aesthetic fitness because it preserves quality of life. The ability to keep doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. Deep into later decades, and all of it begins with a stance that requires no equipment, no membership, and no prior experience. Just the willingness to lower down, hold, breathe, and stay consistent. And when you step back and look at the full picture, what's most surprising about doing the horse stance every day after 50 ISN, any single benefit on its own, it's how many systems of the body it touches all at the same time. Strength without joint strain, balance without movement, endurance without impact, focus without complexity. In a phase of life where exercise often feels intimidating, high-intensity programs, heavy weights, fast movements, the horse stance offers something different. It meets you where you are. You don't need athletic experience. You don't need perfect knees. You don't even need much time. You just need consistency. Because the body after 50 still adapts, just more quietly. Give it a daily signal, and it responds. Hold it for a minute next week. Your balance sharpens. Hold it for several minutes, months from now, your endurance, posture, confidence begin to shift in ways you can feel in everyday life. And that's the real transformation. Not what happens while you're in the stance, no, but what happens when you step out of it. You walk differently. Stand differently. The stairs feel less intimidating. Long walks feel more stable. Getting up from chairs feels smoother. Even your mindset changes, because every day you've proven to yourself, I can still build strength, can still improve. My body is still capable, and that belief is powerful. Because aging isn't just physical, it's psychological. When you feel fragile, you move less. When you move less, you weaken faster. But when you feel capable, you stay active, and capability reinforces itself. That's the quiet cycle the horse stance helps create. Strength gives confidence, gives movement, gives longevity. So if you're over 50 and looking for something sustainable, something joint-friendly, something that builds real-world strength rather than just gym performance, this simple, ancient posture might be one of the most underrated daily practices you can adopt. Start shallow. Stay consistent. Focus on posture and breathing, not depth. Because it's not about how low you go. It's about how regularly you show up. In months from now, you may look back and realize that what started as just standing still became one of the most stabilizing habits in your entire health routine. A few minutes a day, stronger legs, steadier balance, calmer mind, more resilient body. Sometimes the most powerful changes don't come from doing more. They come from holding steady long enough for the body to remember how strong it's meant to be.